Welcome back, everyone, to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. You all are in for a treat. Today's guest is someone I never in a million years thought I would be interviewing, but today, here we are. Today, I am joined by Natalie Grant. You may know Natalie to be a 9-time Grammy nominee, 5-time GMA Dove Awards nominee and vocalist winner of the year. She's an total icon in the Christian and gospel music sphere. She's been described to me by many people I know as the Whitney Houston of Christian and gospel music. And of course, with all of those accolades, while they're amazing, she's also an author, a philanthropist. She co-founded an incredible nonprofit called Hope for Justice, which helps in the fight against human trafficking. And she happens to be an amazing mom of 3 children. So Natalie Grant, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jordan.
I am so thrilled to really have the chance to talk to you at the mom level. I feel like so many people know you as this star with this amazing career and longevity that is really unheard of. And at the heart of it, you and I are the same. We're moms of 3 kiddos.
Yes.
And so I would love for you to start this conversation by sharing a little bit more about you. And did you want to be a mom? And talking me through a little bit more of your childhood and kind of what you envisioned for yourself that kind of led you to at least that first chapter of becoming a mom.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to have a conversation with you. I think as far as if there was a lottery for picking moms, I won. I got the bag. I got a really incredible mom. And I know that, even for some that are listening, that's not their story. Like my background, I feel so incredibly, really blessed. My parents just celebrated 67 years of marriage.
Wow.
And I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And my mom was just the quintessential mom. You know what I mean? She just her whole life and she gave to just her kids, which is funny because that's a whole other part of the conversation of, women give their life to their kids and they're like, wait a second, I gave none of my life to myself. And so as my mom's gotten older, that's been a really enjoyable thing to walk with her through, is discovering things that, wait, well, Mom, what are you passionate about besides just your kiddos? Because your entire life has been your kids. But literally, my mom was the mom that if you came home from school and she wasn't there, something was drastically wrong, because she was always there. We sat around the table as a family for dinner. We looked in each other's eyes and had conversations. So I feel like as a kid, I really won the lottery and had an incredible example of what motherhood is, what it looks like to be a strong woman, but also love and raise strong kids. And so I feel really blessed. All my family lives in Seattle. I'm the only one, the youngest, the baby that flew away. And there's 14 grandkids, 9 great-grand.
Wow.
Big family. And so I did grow up with the, I want to be a mom, I want to be a mom. And I never in a million years thought I'm going to be a singer for a job. That didn't seem realistic. It seemed realistic that you grow up, you get married, you have a couple of kids, and you just live your life. And there was that part of, well, actually, I could dream to do the passion that's in me. I actually could pursue that and go after it with all of my heart. And part of the people who really encouraged me in doing that were my parents. And so, again, I feel so incredibly blessed. So fast forward, I'd got engaged when I was really young, kind of had that plan plotted out for me. Went to college, thought I was going to be a first grade teacher, met a guy who was really kind of verbally abusive and controlling. And it's interesting because when I was 21 years old, I just still thought, but this is the plan I have. So this guy is, he ticks all the boxes. Like, he comes from a wealthy family. He's going to be able to provide all the things you think, well, this is going to give the life that I think I'm supposed to have. And I thank God that before I said I do, I was like, this isn't right for me. This is actually not right for me. And so I broke off the engagement, ended up getting in a singing group, then moved to Nashville, met my husband while I was getting my first record deal. He was my piano player who turned into my husband. And now, almost 26 years later, with 3 kids and a long journey to get to the right guy and to have kids, I feel incredibly blessed.
So I want to pause there for a second because it obviously took an immense amount of courage to kind of fight against the inertia that was saying, this is just your plan, Natalie. Here's this man. This is what's convenient. This is what you're told you should be doing. I am curious to just like dig in there. Like ultimately, what was it? Was it just something inside of you that said, this isn't right? Was it advice from your parents? What was that like the straw that broke the camel's back for you?
You know what's interesting is that actually it was not advice. I will say, like, when you're younger and you don't feel sometimes the courage to even it's so interesting to me when somebody is a victim of something. Part of the interesting psychology behind that is that somehow they feel the shame or embarrassment to talk about what's happening to them, even though it's happening to them, but
Right.
yet then somehow the victim feels like ashamed and embarrassed and not strong enough to share. I didn't tell anybody about what I was going through, what I was feeling. There was something inside of me that was like, this is a make or break for you. You can do what you think is expected of you and be miserable, or you can actually listen to that still small voice. For me and my faith, for me, that's like, I'm pretty sure that's God, like moving on the inside of me, giving me the strength to go, hey, you can choose to do what you want, but all of these different choices have ramifications. And I'm trying to show you that this decision you think seems so impossible and hard is going to be hard for a while, but it's going to lead you to the right thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I literally listened to that thing inside of me. And it was that decision, I think, that even set me on the path of going, you know what? Listen to that voice. Listen to that thing. And every time you make the decision to go, I'm listening to that, it makes you stronger for the next time that you go, oh, this seems like I might be wrong. And this might be this, but it's going to lead you to become stronger every single time to make the right decision for yourself.
Yeah. And look what happened, right? It allowed you to pursue your career in a more dedicated fashion, to leave Seattle, plant roots in Nashville, find your husband. So, let's talk through that a bit. So you said you knew you wanted to be a mom. So here you are, this romantic experience of falling in love with your pianist that becomes your fiance, you get married, and now kind of talk me through kind of what you thought was next.
We both were really pursuing our careers. He was pursuing his career as a songwriter and a producer. I'm pursuing my career as an artist. And it kind of just felt like it's not the time to have kids yet, because I wanted to be able to give myself to doing that well. And it just felt like I was going to be pretty divided. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait. So we were married like 5 years. And at some point, I think because I'm, getting close to 35, I'm like, maybe I'll think about getting pregnant. And it never crossed my mind that it would be hard to get pregnant. I just thought, I'm waiting. We've got all our birth control. We're doing all the right things to, like whatever. And then I get to 35 and I'm like, okay, let's have a baby. And I wasn't getting pregnant. And I remember just with every month, every tracking it, for anybody who's been through any fertility, you're like, I'm tracking it. And then I'm doing this. And then this is the time. And then literally you're like, sex becomes mechanical because you're calling up and you're going,
Yeah.
it's now, it's now, it's now.
Right this second. Let's go. Yeah.
All of the things. And it was not working. And then I go to see the fertility specialist and they're like, well, let's try this and let's try that. And nothing's working. And they're like, let's think about, first of all, they did the testing and they looked at me and they looked at my husband and they came back and said, and what's interesting is, so I don't know how much you know about Nashville, but there's a venue, an iconic venue in Nashville called the Ryman. It's like the mother church of Music City. You know what I mean? And everybody wants to get on that stage because it's just iconic. You want to stand in this circle. It's birthplace of the Grand Ole Opry, you know? I'm getting to sing at the Ryman, and I'm about to sing with Winona Judd. And I'm literally like, this is like a dream. I'm singing with an icon in the most iconic place in Nashville. It's 20 minutes before I'm about to go on stage, and my phone rings. And I recognize the number as the fertility doctor. So I was like, oh, let me grab this really quick, you know, just thinking we're going to have a conversation. And I'll just never forget. They said, hey, we just want to let you know, come in. We're gonna talk through some options, but you and your husband have about a 3% chance of ever conceiving a child. Like, it's not in the cards for you guys. And I'm just like, it was like that moment where you're like, wait, I'm about to walk out and do this thing I've dreamed of. And this other thing that has been one of the biggest dreams of my life feels like it's dying. Well, I'm supposed to go. And I remember the song we sang was called Bring It All Together. And it was this idea of, you know, whatever it is, you know, he's going to take your pain. He's going to take your doubt. He's going to bring it all together for good. He's going to make you happy. He's going to make you laugh out loud. He's going to bring it all together for good. And I'm like, that is absolutely not true. I'm literally like, I'm about to go out and sing these words that I don't even believe at all right now. Like, I feel so crushed. And I'm looking at Winona and she's singing with all of her heart. And I'm singing these words that even in the moment, I'm like, I don't even believe what I'm saying, but I'm going to profess it into the atmosphere. And that's just such a distinct moment in my mind of this iconic moment I dreamed about that felt like it was coupled with the death of another dream. It was just such a weird place to be at the same time, you know?
So there's two things I want to comment on because I think both are really interesting and relatable in some ways. So the first is, isn't it amazing, Natalie? You're 35, right? And for the 5 years in your marriage, totally fine not having kids.
Yeah.
It's like it's cool. You're good. You're content. You're happy. And isn't it interesting how women, it's like you flip a switch.
Yeah.
And now suddenly you can't stop thinking about babies. You see a stroller and you're like, I want a stroller.
Yeah.
You see a playground. I want to be on that playground. You see a play group. I want to be it is so interesting. Like when a woman is ready.
Yeah.
It's not a slow, it is like, it is black or white.
Yes.
And so and I think that's just something important to call out because and I've found this in talking to numerous moms and families that have struggled with infertility, just how painful it is when you finally when you're ready and you can't have it.
Yes.
It's so frustrating.
Yes.
And then the second thing I want to comment on is, and maybe this one is a little less relatable, I suppose, but people look at you on stage and you're right. Performing at the Ryman with this iconic singer next to you. What a dream. What an icon. What a moment.
Yes.
Meanwhile, you are just as human as any other woman, mom that may be attending that show, struggling through the same thing.
Yes.
And I just think it's a really important reminder that no matter what you see on stage and on TV and the movies, we are all trying to navigate life the best we can.
Yes, we're all human. We all have these innate things that make us the same. And the way our circumstances are walked out, the way our lives are walked out might look radically different from each other. But there's this common thread that makes us all the same. And I even think the thing you touched on for women, that when they want it, they want it, right? That is, I also think there's a part of us that every woman I have ever met, like whether she is a mom or not, whether she is single or married, if you are a woman, you are the glue for somebody somewhere because it's who we are. Like we make things happen. We hold things together. In your workplace, I promise you, if you're a woman, you are juggling 50 different things, holding things together, making things happen, making things realized for people. Because it's kind of something, it's like women have a superpower to be glue. And that's, to me, not a mom or a wife thing. That's a woman thing. And so then when you see that, like, well, we make things happen and all of a sudden your body isn't making something happen, there's so much shame attached to a woman that feels like, why am I broken? Like, why? If this is my fault, why can I not make this happen? Because I'm a fixer, I'm a doer, I'm a make it happen because I'm a woman. That's what I do. And why is my body failing me in this way? And I at least that's how I felt, like, so
Well,
ashamed of that.
and I think there's like even like a deeper thing that women feel is like God made me this way. So
Yes.
why am I not being able to fulfill this? Like I think that there are layers of depth to the
That,
shame that women feel when they're navigating infertility, where you truly feel like something is wrong with you that affects like your entire psyche and your capacity to really show up in a really positive way. So I want to understand, you get this call, you so beautifully articulated this show, and I'm visualizing this,
yes.
and I know I'm sure you crushed it. And what was the decision that you and your husband made after you got that call, and kind of what did that look like?
I think for us, it was like such I don't want to say it was an easy decision or a flippant decision because it was but I think we were determined at that point to go, hey, we are living in a moment that offers us some solutions for this. And how amazing is it that we're living in an era where science, and I believe that science is coupled with God, like that's my personal belief of faith, that God and science work together, and it's a miraculous partnership. But for me, we were like, there are options for us. Like 50 years ago, well, 100 years ago, right? It would have what would have been available to us. So we were so grateful. Nashville Fertility Clinic is just a world-renowned fertility clinic, and it was it was like, let's do IVF. And I think when we made that decision, I didn't really know what I was signing up for. I was like, oh, like this might not work, and I might go through all of this. And then you start hearing stories, and once you start going through this, isn't it amazing? I don't know if any women who are listening or watching this can identify with this, but all of a sudden you're told that you're having a hard time having kids, and all of a sudden you meet 50 people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time having a kid, or I'm in fertility struggles. And it all of a sudden felt like 90% of the people I knew, but nobody was talking about it until somebody else was talking about it. They're like, wait, you too? Oh my gosh, me too. And I think that part too of realizing I wasn't alone made it easier for me going into the process, because IVF is not for the faint at heart. I mean, it is. I had 76 shots in my stomach and my backside. My husband is learning how to give a shot on a grapefruit. You know what I mean? So he can give me my progesterone and oil shots were the literal worst shots in the world, but he was masterful at giving them. But just that thing of, and then you go through all of this and you're like, what if it doesn't work? You know, what if it doesn't work? We are so blessed that it did work. And they put 2 in and we got 2 out, and they were our absolute miracles. Our twin girls that are nothing alike, radically different. And it was interesting to even be able to talk to them about IVF and say, you are twins, but you are 2 complete separate embryos that were just, put in me at the same time. So you got to grow together, you got to share the womb together, but you're also very individual. They don't even look like cousins.
So funny.
But
So funny.
split it apart.
I love it. I love it. And, again, I think it's just a great reminder of, sometimes the things you want, they don't come easily.
No.
And, you were blessed that you had the opportunity to go through this treatment option. Obviously, to call out the obvious for people that are struggling, it's also very expensive. It's very expensive. And so, and I believe the success rate, the last that I saw, it's like 25%. So your odds still aren't particularly great.
No, right? It's still, and it's so frustrating. That's probably an entire different podcast for another day, but you're like, why does our system not provide that for?
Right.
And I know some states do, right? So some states do provide a certain number of tries at it or whatever. Tennessee was not like that.
Right.
So, it was like this is same for adoption, right? It's so expensive if that's the route that people take. And we have so many friends that are like, you know what? We don't want to go through what that road is, but we do want to go through adoption. And, all of these roads, there's lots of ways to become a mother. I'm grateful that the road that I chose led to motherhood. I'm grateful for that.
Do you believe the experience you had with infertility shaped the way that you view motherhood, community? Like, how did this chapter of your life impact your outlook?
Well, it's really interesting because so then, we had our twins. We were like, we just got an instant family in one. So got our family. This is amazing. One pregnancy, 2 kids. And almost 4 years later, I got pregnant and I didn't expect it. It wasn't through fertility treatments. It was just, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant and I'm almost 40 years old. And I'm like, it was actually a really interesting thing to walk through, Jordan, because it's almost still so hard for me to even admit, but here I am, this woman that was so desperate for kids that I was willing to do anything. And I go through IVF and I get my 2 babies, and I'm very happy with that because my plan wasn't to have any more kids. I was thrown for a loop when I showed up pregnant. And then I had the guilt of not running around going, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Look at the miracle. And I was like, I think that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be running around. And what about, I know so many people who would give anything. So how terrible of a woman am I that now I feel like, well, I didn't really ask for this one. And I'm overwhelmed. And how do I do 3 kids and do my job? And and it really put me into a tailspin. So I'd like to say that IVF and all that I walked through made me so grateful for motherhood and so invested. I also have to be transparent and honest and say that there's a journey, and then that led me to postpartum depression. And that struggle of my 3rd child is everything I never knew I needed. And I can say that, like, I literally am like, oh my gosh, I can't even fathom my life without my 3rd child. But there was a season where I couldn't fathom my life with 3 kids. And that struggle, the mental struggle of feeling the guilt for not being overly excited and having that moment where I gave birth and they put the baby in your arms in the movies and you have this instant like connection, this instant, oh my gosh, we are, I didn't have that. I still even cried just thinking about it because it's such a struggle because she is my miracle and I love her so much. But I didn't have that in the beginning. And I felt like a terrible mother because I didn't have that. And that was a journey with some prayer, faith, medication, and counseling all together. And I feel like that has made me a stronger mother even than the fertility journey, because learning like it's actually okay to have these emotions. It's okay to admit your weakness. It's okay to admit that you need help. It's okay to admit that you're struggling, and it's okay to accept help. That is actually what will make you a stronger mom, better to, raise your kids with this transparency. And I think it's really that journey that made me a better mom.
There's just so much pressure on moms to feel a certain way.
Yes.
And I think what you said earlier in the interview is actually really important to call out too. You were raised by a mom who poured her entire life into her children. And I think that a lot of people our age, we were raised by moms that was their dedicated role. A lot of, not everyone, of course, but a lot of, call it Gen X, older millennial types. We were still raised with a mom that didn't necessarily work outside the home. And so you have this baseline, this precedent of what motherhood should look like. Then you have the added pressures of what everyone's telling you motherhood should feel like in this culture of abundance and everyone needs to be busy and everything is wonderful and amazing. And then you now add in social media.
Right. Right.
And there's just so much pressure to feel a certain way around what it's going to be like when they hand you your baby. And I think it's so like honestly so incredibly refreshing to hear someone say it's okay if you don't have an immediate connection with your baby.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad mom. That doesn't mean you're not going to have an incredible relationship.
Yes.
It just means that it might take more time.
Journey. Yes. Yes.
It just might take more time. But I think that everything that you're saying here is such an important reminder for not just moms, parents, that this journey is long and it's not linear. You know, it's okay to feel like you're doing great and then to feel like you're not doing so great. And you just got to keep going. You just have to keep pursuing. And to your point, you have to be willing to invest in help and support.
Yes.
You can't do it by yourself.
No, you cannot. And I also think one of the gifts that even that taught me, we all have a different journey. We all have different, I can say, gosh, I'm so glad I waited to have kids till I was a little bit older because I think it helped me in some maturity areas in some ways. But then I look at a lot of my friends who had their kids when they were in their early 20s and they'd be like, oh, I'm so glad I had my kids young because, there's no one size fits all. There's no one just cookie cutter way to motherhood. But some of the things as I'm looking and my twin daughters are just about to graduate high school. And now I'm in this different season where, oh my goodness, I could cry all over again because now I'm in this like, wait, I don't want to hold them back. I don't want to clip their wings and keep them, but I do. Actually, I do. I don't. I want them to fly so high, but I don't want them to fly so high that they fly away. And there's just all these crazy emotions that I was not prepared for the senior year of being at equal parts joy and grief, and that you can laugh and cry and be so excited for their college acceptance and so sad for your heart that their bedroom will be empty. Like there's so many emotions that motherhood brings in the journey. But I've just really learned that even going through fertility for these two, and then they came out, they're so separate from each other. And then this journey for my third child, all of my kids are so different. And if there's one really true piece of advice I can give to moms that have, even multiple kids, or even if you only have one, but just every one of your children is different. And just like there's no cookie cutter to motherhood, there's no cookie cutter to kids either. And what might work when I'm talking and dealing with, my oldest daughter, I call her my oldest because she was born first by 1 minute, or when I'm talking to her twin, I have to parent them completely differently. And there are some basics that are like our family rules, right? That apply to everybody. This is our family choice, our family rules, our family boundaries. This applies to everybody. But when I'm talking to you about what you're walking through and this that you feel about this college experience that you're trying to have, or this going to prom with, and this is a mess right now, and this, you have to be willing to get down low and go, okay, I'm going to talk to you as the individual that you are, because this is an individual journey and it is the most exhausting and beautiful thing we will ever do in our lives. But I have to remind myself every day, I am one woman with 3 kids. So I'm going to be one woman to this kid right now. I don't have to try to divide myself in a million different ways. So I'm just going to take a moment and be my one self with my one child. And then I'm going to be myself with this child. And through the years, looking now with 18-year-olds and a 14-year-old, that's honestly one of the best pieces of advice I feel like I could give to a mom is don't feel like you have to toss yourself into pieces to everybody. Center yourself and go, I'm going to give myself to this one, and then this one, I'm going to give myself to her and or him, and listen to them at their level and what they need, instead of trying to do it in a cookie cutter way, if that makes sense.
It does. Last question for you, Natalie, before we wrap up. One of the things I'm passionate about talking about is support.
Yeah.
And so, something that draws me to you, in addition to being an incredible mom, is how active you are in your community. And so I'd love for you to share, why is that so important to you? And what does community mean to you? What does serving others mean to you? I always am very inspired by hearing people's stories like that.
When you hear the phrase, it takes a village, right? I remember when we first had our twins and multiple family members were in there, and they had the two little babies, and everybody was huddled over them. And my mom was changing one diaper and a sister was changing another diaper. And I remember my mom saying, it takes a village. And I feel like that in life, that community is faith for me is core to who I am. But even faith walked out amongst your community, there's something about that piece of not just your family, but your friends, having an environment of people that when they need you, you are there for them. When you need them, they are there for you. And I can't imagine doing life without our community. It makes our kids stronger. It makes our family stronger. I think it centers everybody, gives them that foundation of safety, of feeling like we have our people. And for us, we don't have any family that lives in Nashville, right? So we've had to surround ourselves, and we call it the family you choose. We've chosen these people to be our family. And we've all walked through, a lot of our core community comes from our church. And we've walked through so much life. I had cancer, or somebody else through the death of a child, or the death of a spouse, or the sickness of a child. And you realize, wait, none of us, I don't know how I could have done that without my community holding me up, holding my hands, bringing me a meal, taking care of my kids when I couldn't take care of them myself. And I'm really, really, none of us are meant to do life alone. I think 2020 taught us that more than ever before, that isolation and loneliness is something that plagues so many people, and we are not built to do life alone.
We are not. You know how strongly I believe in that. And I think something you said earlier that should be highlighted is, in order for you to build community, you have to be willing to ask and receive help.
Yes.
Which is hard.
Yes.
It is a moment of vulnerability for many people. And it is the foundation of what community is about, because you have to be willing to let others help you.
And you have to be risky. You have to be willing to take the risk, because it also means that you are allowing people, you're giving people permission to hurt. Like, sometimes a relationship fails you, and a friend can fail you. But at the same time, the risk is worth it, because when you invest in relationship will invest back in you. And sometimes it takes time finding your people. But when you find them, then you realize, like, wait, this I had to kind of work through to get there, but then I've got my people, and now my people, this is my community.
Amazing. Natalie, I could talk to you for hours. I'd like to think this is part one of many. As you said, there's so many ways we could go. You're amazing. And I truly think it's just incredible to talk to someone who has achieved such success professionally at such a personal level about, again, motherhood and the journey, how messy it can be, how rewarding it can be, holding so many feelings, emotion, truths all at once. This is how I believe we as moms and as parents and as communities, we will be strengthened. And that will be strengthened by authenticity and telling our stories and not being so focused on it all looking perfect.
Yes.
It's not. It's not. So I am so grateful for you, Natalie, and look forward to many more conversations.
Thank you. So good to talk to you and see you.